All right, welcome to yet another beautiful episode of The Green Line right here on Rapid TV. My name is Martha Allo. As always, we talk about agricultural innovations and topical issues surrounding the agricultural ecosystem. Last week, we had a conversation centered around producing good food, the standard of food that gets to the tables of Nigerians and into the marketplaces. Now, it was surprising to find out that there is a standard, according to the United Nations, of food that is considered good food. It might sound very alien, especially in this part of the world where the most important thing is survival. It's just give me what I need to have, let me eat and just get away. But according to the United Nations, there is a standard of food that should be distributed in the marketplace and on the tables. And until we get this right, as Nigerians, as a people, we just might continue to grapple with some of the inefficiencies in the agricultural system. But not to worry, the Green Line is here to help mitigate through some of these hard decisions, hard policies, hard expectations for us, helping us understand the agricultural ecosystem better and how to mitigate all of the crises that we experience within the sector. Again, as always, we will be highlighting some agricultural technologies where we let you see how things are being done in different parts of the world. And for last week, I made reference to last week because it was an interesting discovery, hydroponic farming. And if you saw the videos that we, of course, displayed on your screens last week, Friday, you'd see that agriculture is important and finding better and easier ways to do your agric or finding easier or better ways to planting your crops, healthier ways even, is the way forward. And for hydroponic farming, we had that displayed on our screens. Today, we go again, letting you see some interesting developments in the agricultural sector. But before we do that, as always, we visit the marketplace where we talk about some of the harsh crises that are faced by both the farmers, the traders, and the consumers as well. Today, we looked at pepper, one that Nigeria's food is never complete without. And so let's see what they have to say.
My name is Rita Anekwe.
What's your name?
Blessing Thomas.
This one is
One basket.
how much is this basket?
Now is 3,000.
What of you?
This one is 2,000.
Half basket.
Yes.
This one is 3,000.
This
You can sell it any amount.
any amount.
Okay, I want it 1,000.
No, I cannot sell it 1,000.
Okay, but from 2,000.
From 3,000 to 4,000.
4,000.
Yes.
This one is from.
This one is from 2,000.
So you can't sell this one 1,500.
2,000 normal.
You can't sell it.
Yes.
There is
You can sell
difference.
it. That
You
is
can see difference.
This one is
This
very
one is
shiny.
very shiny, but
Very
this one
shiny.
is dull.
Yes.
That's the difference.
Yes.
You know the same pepper?
It's the
It's
same
the
pepper,
same, but this
it's
one is
the
very
same-
shiny.
It's not the same quality.
So which one is hotter?
This one is hotter.
This one is
Hotter,
hotter than
Yes.
this one.
Yes.
This don't come down. Rice don't come down, but it remain fuel. Smell fuel reduce. Make everything okay.
So market is okay.
Market is okay.
People are buying.
Yes, people are buying. They get money, it's okay like that. But the transport, now it be wahala.
The transport they affect the price of this thing.
Yes, they affect. They affect. People no fit enter because of transport.
So if the price of transport reduce, this thing will still come down.
You go still come down.
Like this one, how much I sell?
Like this one 5,000. Now it can't be 2,000 now.
2,000 now. Before 5,000.
10,000. 10,000. Now it's 1,000 naira.
Welcome back. As you heard from the women in the marketplace, the prices of things are crashing down, but transportation seems to be one of the major problems that these market men and women are facing, especially when it comes to planting and harvesting of pepper. But yes, we'll have that one on the side. And next, we move to having our expert on the show. Now, you guys need to get used to having him because, of course, he is an authority in the field. And we love to have people who quite understand these conversations to help us understand this and help you understand it better. I've got the pleasure of hosting Mr. Damian Udo yet again. Good morning to you.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. Good to be here.
How's
Thank you
your
very
week?
much.
How's your week?
It was good. It was good. It was busy, but it was good.
It was
Thank
great.
you so much.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you
Now,
so much.
I'm sure that you must have come across the marching order that was given by the president, saying that all the prices of food should be crashed down.
Right.
Let me hear your thoughts on that before we progress.
I think it's laudable. It's a great initiative. Every president should think about their people. And,
Absolutely.
one of the things that really affects everyday life is the cost people pay for food. Because, how do I put it? You get to eat, what is it called? 3 squared meals, right? So ideally, you're supposed to eat 3 times: breakfast, lunch, dinner. And if the cost of having breakfast, lunch, and dinner is through the roof, your citizens begin shouting and screaming, and you have unrest. So it's actually a great initiative. How we go about achieving that initiative is another. I think it's a conversation we're about to have.
Super
right?
important.
Yeah.
Yes, and yes, Nigeria's inflation rate
Right.
hit 4% in April 2025. And agriculture or food inflation soaring to about 40%, right? Staples like rice, beans, gari, all of those things that you'd find in homes, generally, the price skyrocketed.
Right.
So now, crashing prices without tackling the supply bottlenecks risk becoming quite rhetoric. Now, my question to you is, with Nigeria's food inflation rate being 40.5%, according to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, in an economy which is fragile, is it realistic to crash these food prices?
It is very, very realistic, but we have to take a very holistic approach towards crashing these food prices, right? Before food prices went up, I wanted to let's take it back 2 years. Before food prices went up to the current state we have, what changed was the removal in fuel subsidy. Great move, but at the same time, that one line item change in the cost of fuel changed the overall cost of food. Because every time you increase one constituent cost in our food systems, it affects the whole value chain, right? So fuel costs went up, and immediately your truck of, let's say, pepper that would have been coming from somewhere in Kano to Lagos that might have cost, say, 800,000 naira before subsidies were increased. That same truck of pepper would now go up to, say, 1.8 million naira, right? That cost is transported to the final consumers because the traders have to pay for the logistics, and then the market women will pay those traders for that cost, and then me and you get to pay that cost eventually. So those just tiny changes and shifts in other parts of the economy make very, very significant shifts on our food system, right? So it should be a very holistic approach. Food inflation is real. I actually wanted to call out some stats I saw on, if you don't mind, this from Nairametrics, right? So just between July and June of this year, you have a bag of onions from 100,000 to 130,000, right? You mentioned pepper from 120,000 per bag to 140,000. You actually have areas where things have reduced, right? So what was this now? A bag of Honeywell Semovita has gone from 9.3 to 8,550. Your tuber of yam has gone from 5,000 to 4,500. So you have those different places where prices are going up, prices are coming down. It makes sense to take this approach, like I said. The government will always take a holistic approach, which is to open the borders, allow more imports. But local producers, like you also mentioned in your introduction, would always want us to take a holistic approach, which is they're complaining our cost of inputs are higher. Yes, they are higher. What we want to do is help us access these inputs cheaper, like make the inputs more accessible, make them cheaper for us, so that, because if you're going at that bit with reducing prices overall, you can't just take I'm going to open the borders approach alone. It has to be open the borders, also boost local production to meet this demand on this other end, so that you could get that price equilibrium you're looking for.
Okay. Now, the president can give the directive, just like we stated. FCCPC, the Ministry of Agriculture, and other trade bodies have the responsibility, or they have statutory roles. Now, the question here is, can the executive really force down the food prices?
They can. I mean, government can. In the last administration, the government played a massive role in the maize value chain, right? And that's because traders are taking it overboard, buying, hoarding, and then prices skyrocket and then they sell. And so what the government had done through a couple of organizations was enter into that market and then play in terms of like price control. That's buy massive positions and be able to control the prices. So the government has a couple of mechanisms. That's just one to enter the market and kind of like drop prices. For example, opening the border is one thing.
Absolutely.
You have massive inflow of bags of rice, prices crash. It affects local producers, but it stabilizes price in the immediate, right? But for the long run, those kinds of interventions are not the most sustainable. Practically because we don't want to export the jobs that we are creating here in our food systems. We want our food systems to be robust. We want them to grow. We want them to improve year on year. So we like opening the borders in and of themselves is not a sustainable solution. In the immediate, it helps reduce costs on certain food items, not all, because there's some that just is not going to affect. Yes, so the government has the power. Government has a number of tools in its toolbox to drive those prices down. Like you mentioned, all the other organizations with the statutory responsibilities have tricks up their bag that they could employ to kind of like drive down prices. But in the long run, for a sustainable solution, those approaches are not always approaches like opening the border, importing. They're not always the best for our own economy.
And I think that the Minister of Agriculture did make mention of that, saying it's not the way out. To constantly import things to Nigeria, we should also get to a point where we get to export some of these things because we have what it takes, and that's why it suppresses a lot of Nigerians. Now let's talk about one of the major challenges that these farmers face, which is security. In fact, according to the World Bank 2023 report, it says Nigeria loses about $6 billion, right? Yes, $9 billion to conflict and agricultural insecurity. Now, do you think that this is one of the first places the government needs to look into if they are trying to crash the food prices? Because look at places like Benue State, places like Plateau and Zamfara that supply some of the major farm produce to the Nigerian market have experienced crisis in the last couple of years. Last couple of months, we're talking about June, July, we see the attacks on the Yelwata community and a host of other communities here in Nigeria. What approach do you think the government should take when it comes to security for the farmers?
So again, we need a holistic approach, right? When we talk about crashing food prices sustainably, we need to take a food system approach, right? So that which would mean very intentional design of our food systems and implementation of those designs. And at the same time, so just boiling down to the question on insecurity, it is something serious we're having to deal with, right? And I say that with all seriousness. And the government has done a couple of things. There were these guys called agro rangers that were deployed. Right. So agro rangers kind of like have been deployed. They need to be a lot more effective. A friend of mine and a friend of hers are working on an initiative that's supposed to help around these areas. So it's for me, it's not just a yes to answer your question directly. It's something that the government needs to tackle. We did something in was it 2019? Yes. Quickly did something around a farming community in Kaduna called Maro, where we're helping those farmers get access to market. We called the article access to market in the midst of insecurities. There are still ways to work around access to markets for farmers in communities where there are insecurity. We need to build the systems around them, right? At the same time, we need government and private sector collaborations or partnerships to come into play so that we could actually have real holistic sustainable solutions around that. Insecurities, I actually know of individuals in the food space who have had to pay security levies in some of those communities to be able to work in those communities, and that's vigilante fees because those guys are actually protecting the farmers
while they farm
and while they harvest. And I know of a startup that lost I think about 50 million naira in a farm because they couldn't go harvest.
Really?
Yes. And that in itself, those kind of occurrences happen. Farmers also lose a lot of their produce to issues that we've been trying to tackle as a nation around herdsmen, moving up and down the place. I mean, that's a whole conversation on its own. So there needs to be a holistic approach to security for our farmlands. That in itself, that if you think about it as a line item, right, in a number of things that we need to do, that in itself alone is going to contribute. I mean, imagine $9 billion.
$9 billion.
Now imagine that we're able to tackle that one thing, then we have $9 billion. Don't think about it in terms of money, think about it in terms of supply of food products.
Yeah.
What that does to the market is very, very significant. It means more food in the markets. I mean, immediately there's more food in the market, prices go down.
Yes,
Fundamentals
definitely.
of supply and
Definitely.
demand, yeah.
And you know, the funny thing is, the reason why this continues to happen is it doesn't just affect people who farm for commercial purposes, even subsistence farmers.
Yeah.
Because these people are chased out of their communities, chased out of their homes, where usually out of convenience they could plant certain things behind their house and still feed from those things. I remember sometime, I think it was last year or last 2 years, where I tried to get into subsistence farming because I love tubers a lot. Yeah.
I love it.
And then try to farm, do a bit of that, just as you have recounted.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. We couldn't go to harvest those products because there was a breakout of should I say war? It's not war, but there was an outbreak of headers, farmer clashes around that there, and most of those things were destroyed. Now, I could recover from such a thing because first off, it was not for economic purposes, it was just for to eat, right? But think about this happening to multiple households, because we cannot deny the fact that people who farm subsistently also solve the problem of food crisis.
Yes.
Because now they don't go to the market, they eat what they farm. So whether or not they reduce the pressure on the farmers that have to supply to the market for place for people who solely depend on buying from the marketplace.
Yes.
So I mean, that's a whole, like you said, it's a whole conversation on its own.
It is
security.
It is. So the stats say that we have about 38 million smallholder farmers in Nigeria. Every time insecurity drives any percentage of those 38 million out of the producing force, as a country, I mean, those guys are the backbone of our food systems, right? Our commercial farms do great stuff, but our commercial farms do not come even close to meeting the demand. One of our collaborators in Lagos, we onboarded them a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, last year, sorry. I just wanted to be certain with my stats. They're called Orisha farms. They do open sea farming, right, of fish. Just they alone, from their capacity, every time I talk with the founder, we're looking to help scale their capacity for production. They alone cannot even meet the demand for the kinds of fish that they do tilapia, they do catfish also. They can't even meet up to 1% of the national demand for tilapia. Talk more of export markets and stuff like that, right? So imagine Orisha Farms now goes out of production. That's already a deficit in the overall market. And like you said, back to the overall general approach of reducing food prices, even those who farm for subsistence that just have enough to eat, whenever they are not able to do that,
it puts pressure back on
the major
market.
on the overall, because now they don't have the ability to produce, and they don't necessarily have the money to go buy. Right, so it can be a mess.
Right, interesting conversation. I must agree. So let's talk about subsidies.
Right.
It's a conversation that a lot of Nigerians are exhausted about. But when we say subsidies, most people turn their eyes to oil and gas sector. But in the agricultural sector, there are subsidies that can be made to enable people, help people mitigate the crisis of food, right? Places like, Egypt, where they had to subsidize bread, and Kenya, that had to subsidize maize, for certain reasons, just to help mitigate the food crisis that was in their country at that time. What lessons can Nigeria borrow from both Egypt that I've mentioned, Kenya, Ethiopia, and some of these other countries that have been able to raise their head above the water?
So think about it this way. First, we're a larger population, right? We're over 220 million people, right? Subsidies in Nigeria have to be intentional and they have to be directed.
Absolutely.
And subsidies for us should be directed at production, at primary production. If we're doing any kind of subsidies, it should be around primary inputs, it should be around the drivers for production, so that we're actually subsidizing the right things that will actually drive production. On the other market end, if we come at, say, for example, want to subsidize bread, that's massive, right?
Yes,
that's massive.
A lot of people.
Because a lot of people, and it should be like going back to fuel subsidies, right? Because you're going to spend almost as much, maybe not just on bread, but on other line items within the food space, food items, right? So think about it this way: we take the money, and then we apply it to getting our farmers the best seeds, to getting them the best inputs that they need, everything from organic to inorganic fertilizers, everything that they need to create, right, great food. For those who are capturing food, we give them the things that they need, whether it's better speed boats, better nets to catch
equipment as well.
Equipment and other things like that. For like my friend Daniel of Orisha Farms, like I mentioned, we make sure that he expands his capacity to produce. So it should be, what it looks like is intentional direct investment into food system actors, right? Farmers, food processors, all the other people who are primary producers. Once we direct the resources towards production, why am I saying production? Because that's where we can actually change things in terms of like the quantities that come out. And once again, fundamentals of supply and demand, once quantities increase, prices naturally go down because these things are now more available, right? So if we direct our subsidies, I'm not against subsidies, I would say yes, because I mean, like again, I said 38 million smallholder farmers, like the stats say, we direct our subsidies, we just think, the only thing with subsidies, we have to be one, intentional, and it needs to be directed.
Absolutely.
How we deploy it is also going to matter. We need to work with trusted organizations within the food space that have like a footprint within these farming communities. It has to be across the whole nation, across different value chains, and then we implement it directly towards primary production. If we do that, our output will improve. Of course, we also need to kind of like build out solutions around post-harvest losses rather, and of course storage systems, right? So that all of these great harvest doesn't go to waste. And of course, market linkages definitely to ensure that everything that gets produced gets to the markets that they are needed.
All right.
That they are needed. Right?
Let's, on a very final note, if you had the opportunity to suggest to the government, because again, this is a marching order that's been given, and if he is able to speak to key players, because I'm sure that when he gave out that order, the key players in the agricultural sector that probably might have reached out to him to say, oh, this might not be possible, these are some of the things that should be done and shouldn't be done. If you're in that position where you could give the president an advice of this marching order, what would it be?
Okay, that's a very sexy one, and I'm on national TV. So, right, so first things, very few things are impossible. If we determine to, as a nation, have, in your introduction you mentioned something about good food, right? At Quick Leap we define good food as food that is nutritious, affordable and accessible, right? And those three components for us drive the definition of good food. As president of a nation, there's so much power within your reach, and that power is a trust, and how you deploy that power is for the good of people, should be for the good of the people. And so if I had the opportunity to sit with Mr. President, I would I'll be very, very intentional about first raising the goal from just food security, just primarily right now just driving food prices down and food security, to creating a roadmap to food sovereignty.
Certainly.
All right, so national food sovereignty, continental food sovereignty, and if we were to actually build out that roadmap to food sovereignty, we'll achieve all the other things we're looking out for. Reduce food prices, food security, and we'll become a net exporter of good food, right? So we'll drive out, would create a very, very holistic design for our food systems that has everything in it, from incentives around primary production, incentives around food processing, incentives around, the first, we already know where the resources are, so it's more the allocation of the resources that we have. We're a very, very blessed nation. We have more arable land than a lot of other people do. And look at what Netherlands has been able to do. Look at what Israel has been able to do with less the resources that we have. And so we're able to create a comprehensive food sovereignty plan for ourselves as a nation, right? We would actually and we actually work it out. And we create a system that is not going to end with this administration, but, clarity and policy direction will drive a lot of capital towards our nation. I mean, the capital always goes in the direction of opportunity. And so we'll drive a lot of capital towards it. The big boys in the banking industry who already allocate certain parts of their overall balance sheets to agriculture would be doing more, because there's clarity in direction. And then there's also, like, I think the role of government in these things is, like I said on the last show, in terms of art, is, there's a canvas, you're giving direction as to, which is policy direction, as to how people should paint on the canvas. Once you can create clarity around opportunities for investment, capital directly just flows into that, right? So I think the right thing to do at this moment is that go for food sovereignty.
Okay.
We go for food sovereignty. We'll solve all the other little problems we have.
Would-
It won't be like putting out fires, reduce food prices, import food here and there. No, it will be a holistic. We are going to be great at this thing. So we're going to have so much food, right? And yeah.
Which is the same,
the other things,
surprise. This is almost the same perspective that the Minister of Agriculture did state out, food sovereignty,
Yeah.
which is super important as well.
Yeah.
But yes, we're going to have to let you go at this point.
Thank
and
you.
We had an amazing time having this conversation.
Always a
with
delight
you.
to be here.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you so much again.
Thank you very much.
Yes, if you are just joining us, we have been hanging out with Mr. Damian Udo, and he is the Chief Executive of Quick Lip. Now, let's go out on a very short break. When we get back, we'll keep up with the conversation. All right, welcome back. Now, when we are talking about doing things correctly, we're talking about doing things efficiently. We're also looking at the ways that we can harvest our crops easier. Now, one of the major challenges that we highlighted in this conversation about harvesting our farm produce is security. Imagine a person going to the farm and not being able to harvest their farm produce just because of insecurity. But how about we find out efficient ways to harvest the crops that does it faster, cleaner, and easier? We might leave the farm before the bandits arrive, don't you think so? But yes, let's take a look at this form of harvesting, and let me know what you think.
From the days of hand tools and simple machinery, today, technology is transforming how we harvest, making farming faster, smarter, and more efficient. One of the areas where innovation is making a big impact is rice harvesting. Modern rice harvesters are built not just for speed, but for precision and sustainability. These machines can cut, thresh, clean, and bag rice in one seamless process, drastically reducing post-harvest losses. For example, advanced rice harvesters can cover up 1 hectare in less than an hour, compared to several days with manual labor. This doesn't just save time and money, it helps farmers preserve grain quality and increase yields. But beyond individual machines, what we are really seeing is a global shift towards data-driven harvesting. Farmers can now monitor yields in real time, adjust for crop conditions, and optimize fuel use, all from the cab or even remotely. In a country where security happens to be one of the concerns of the agricultural structure, finding smarter ways to engage in agricultural activities is the way forward. And this data-driven harvesting tool is definitely an optimal way of harvesting. Harvesting today is no longer just about cutting crops. It's about combining innovation, intelligence, and sustainability to feed the future. This is the Green Line, where innovation meets agriculture.
Right, you would agree with me that farming the right way, farming efficiently makes life better and makes it efficient and makes the overall process not cumbersome. Because again, the reason a lot of people shy away from agriculture is because we have the olden days way of thinking about agriculture. Oh, they have to be tacky. Oh, they have to dress a certain kind of way. I mean, I farm too. So, I mean, they don't have to look tacky all the time. So yeah, there we have that one. And this will bring us to the very end of today's episode. I totally enjoyed myself, especially when we're talking about policies, because we can't talk about getting into agriculture, understanding the nitty-gritty of agriculture. But when the policies do not support your learning and your practice of agriculture, it would just be shadowboxing. And today, we've learned some of the policies that can be introduced. In fact, our guest has helped us out with advising the president on what to do to make agriculture more attractive for the youth to partake in. Now, I will be heading out right now, but remember, I will always be on your screens Friday at 11 a.m. My name is Martha Alo, and you definitely can rewatch this episode on our YouTube at official Rappi TV. See you next week.